The views and content expressed on the following program are provided solely for informational and entertainment purposes. They do not constitute legal advice. A podcast is not a substitute for retaining a competent, licensed attorney to advise you on your specific legal situation.
Break the business, play is work and work is play. Power into creators, have fun along the way. Break the business, doing what it takes. Celebrate success and learn from the mistakes.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome once again to another rousing Wednesday night, or whatever time of day it is for y'all when you are listening. Welcome to Break the Business. It is the show where we empower indie creators, chat a little bit about pop culture, and hopefully, if all goes well, we'll have a little fun along the way. I am Elisa, also known as ElisaRockDoc on the internet, and I am currently taking over for Ryan, our intrepid host, as he takes care of his most demanding and most important client yet. And another congratulations. I hope he's doing okay. I hope he has gotten at least a couple of hours of sleep in the last few weeks. Not sure if he has, but I know who else is sleep deprived. Me. It has been a whirlwind of a week for a lot of us here in Break the Business land. We are currently waiting a potential guest, stand-up comedian Coco Brown. Hopefully she can join us. She's actually preparing to do a live set within the next half hour, so we're not entirely sure if she'll make it, but if she can, we would be happy to chat with her right before she steps up on stage. But this last week, and all throughout the show today, we are going to be chatting about what I've been doing this past week at Gen Con. We're going to be bringing Lauren up to talk a little bit about her experience at the Fringe. For those folks who might have been listening last week, it was a whirlwind episode with the three of us, me, Lauren, and Katie, from literally different corners of the world, 3 different time zones represented on the show. And Lauren gave us a preview of what she found at the Fringe Festival in Scotland. And I gave a little bit of a preview of what my whole situation was at Gen Con in Indianapolis. And Katie, as usual, holding it down all the way from Nashville. We're currently waiting on Coco. There's all sorts of stuff. I don't think I've actually fully unpacked yet. But hopefully you and I, dear listener, can unpack some things together in the meantime. So I wanted to actually bring on Lauren really quick, if that's cool, Lauren, to like put you on the spot.
Anytime.
I figure we could start with you, only because, full disclosure, folks, right now it has been very, very hot in Texas, and with very little relief, except for the kind of, at least to me, surprise thunderstorms that we've been getting all day today. Despite my being Puerto Rican and living in Puerto Rico and living in Miami, and therefore getting bombarded with tropical storms and hurricanes, lightning still freaks me out. And thunder still freaks me out. So bear with me if you hear a random yelp throughout the show.
So instead of like comforting your pet, they have to comfort you. Like it happens and they're like, it's
I need a thunder shirt.
Yeah.
Yes, I need a thunder shirt. I need some headphones. If you're scared, they're scared. Bring your pets in, up to and including me. I am not a fan of lightning and thunder. I get scared. I have to cover my ears. It's one of my earliest and scariest memories. Was hanging out in my house during Hurricane Hugo. That was dope. But speaking of whirlwinds and hurricanes and reasons that we cannot sleep, Lauren, right now for me it is 8:11 p.m. on a Wednesday. What time is it for you?
It is currently 2:11 a.m. on Thursday the 11th.
Okay. So you have been at the Fringe and dealing with all sorts of time zone fun for at least the last week. We got a little bit of a preview last week. You had a really cool video. Everybody check the VOD on the channel to see just like an awesome showcase of pop-up theaters and beautiful posters showcasing all manner of entertainers.
I couldn't stop myself. There's like posters from shows like on my wall already.
And you're just collecting them, but now you're in it. You're in the thick of it. So tell us what you've experienced this whole week so far.
We're a week into the Fringe Festival this year. The weather has been incredible. You're talking about what it's like in Texas. It was supposed to be cold and rainy, and it's been sunny and breezy and warm. Today was a little warmer than anyone would have liked. We broke 80 today. What?
Wow. Okay.
Crazy.
A little warmer. just cracking 80. Wow.
But everyone here speaks in their other languages. They're speaking like in the metric system or something. But everybody's like, I'm standing around, they're like, oh my God, it's going to be 24 tomorrow. And I'm like, yeah, that's awful.
Yeah, I can't do that math in my head. I always have to like, wait,
not in real time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, I guess that's warm then. But I'm in a Spiegel tent, and I don't know if you know what a Spiegel tent is, but I'm super excited.
Please describe for the folks at home what a Spiegel tent is. I only know Spiegel as a catalog I used to frequent in the 90s.
That works too.
Shouts to anyone who also has ever seen a catalog and B, a Spiegel catalog. But go on, a Spiegel tent.
A Spiegel tent. Spiegel tents were traveling performance venues from Germany back in like the 1800s or early 1900s. And they're basically kind of like circus tents, but they've got stained glass windows and mirrors everywhere. And I guess the Spiegel tent stood for like House of Mirrors or something. And just so that you and I can have a little fun. The mirrors around the room were so that you could make eye contact with someone without being obvious about it. Like they were event venues. So you could be like, hey, I'm not looking at you, but I see you. So there's mirrors everywhere.
How saucy and flirty.
It is. And there's just an energy in them because they've passed down, for so long. So you get in and you're like, I don't care what happens now. I'm in a Spiegel tent. This is just awesome.
Just feels like, and I'm sure that there are like some sort of like history enthusiasts that can kind of sympathize. It's just like, I just love old stuff and just like the feeling of being in a space that feels historic, like what must this canvas tent have seen?
And that's this whole city. That's the like weird part is like, we're such a new culture, especially in South Florida. We're like, we've been around for less than 100 years. But everything here, like the buildings are all full of history. Even the Fringe alone, as you can see here, they're on their 75th year of the Fringe Festival. So like, this has been a long tradition of everything. I think there's 300 and something venues. I was walking around. At some point, I'll put together pictures for you all, but just of bars with the I'm a venue and like a hotel room is like, now I'm a venue. And my Spiegel tent is in the middle of the street, like New York, like the streets are blocked off and there's a beer garden and 3 venues and like a tent in the middle of the street. In any case, outside of the 300 and something venues, there's also registered street performers, buskers. That's a huge part of this festival and festivals all over the world. When you go, you can walk around and see entertainment anywhere. And I think that busking and street performing is coming a long way. I don't know. I mean, I know you got excited when you were like, ooh, buskers a while back. They're incredible. And they've got their own network. But there's a couple of really cool things happening in my head anyway, in that busking world as we transition from one thing to the other is digital payments is one thing. We've got, I felt really bad walking by a busker the first day I was here because I realized like I didn't have any change on me. I didn't have any like cash. I'm not carrying it around. And the Fringe, actually, I can pull it up for you guys. The Fringe
Oh.
set up for the buskers these like foam core boards that are about yay big, and they can put them out in front of the buskers so people who are registered with the festival can have their audience members walk by and scan a QR code to be able to tip them, or touch to pay if you want to pay in £5, £10, or £20. Save yourself time and just go, I'll give you $5. And
That's really cool.
by today, and I think they're evolving as time goes on, there were like assistants almost. There was a street team that was wandering around helping with transitions. Oh my gosh, help you get your stuff on and off a space.
Ooh.
And walking around and going, oh, he's got CDs. Does anyone want to buy one of these while he's like performing? So you didn't have to like hunt them down after. They're supporting them, which I thought was awesome. Yeah, right. Like, what?
That's really cool. Now, I guess for those that are sort of like unfamiliar with like busking, I guess as like a concept, I feel like there's a difference between just playing outside and like busking as like a thing you do and a philosophy. And I think there's like probably like a busker's code and like etiquette that one has to follow in terms of being the busker and also being a person who watches a I don't know, I guess a buskie. I don't know. So I love this concept.
I've been looking more and more into that. And hopefully I'm working on lining up like a true busking vet. I believe he's been doing it since like the 70s. And we're hopefully lining him up to kind of give us a little bit of background on all of the fun evolutions that have gone through this. One of the articles I was reading that he was interviewed in was talking about, them putting into law some things regarding buskers. And he's like, if it were me, I would have compromised. But I believe it was Johnny Walker was in the negotiations for it. And he said, no, like this is a protected thing by law. And part of what makes buskers and street performers is that they aren't regulated. They show up and create things like they're on the spot. And too much structure around that kind of kills what it is they do. And there's a show I'm going to be going to that's actually on the history of busking at the festival, which should be super interesting to go to. And they've got like educational boards up around the city showing buskers from history and what they did and what they went on to do and all kinds of stuff. So I'm learning so much about this. One thing stood out, which I wanted to share with you guys.
Absolutely.
This was on one of the billboards that was out there, and it says, nobody pays the performers to be here. They risk the journey and their accommodation costs on being able to impress an audience enough for them to make a voluntary contribution at the end of a performance. They're hoping so much, not built-in audience, not they're going to pay me before they know what they're going to get, but that I can engage with people in a way that will have them stop what they're doing, pay attention to me, and then be grateful about it. And that's a skill.
It's powerful.
And I think that's got to be like a fix. I talk about the performance fix, like people saying, I appreciate you. I like you. I like what you just did. And the number of performers that I've seen here that truly are like, it's not about the money. If you liked what you saw and you can't pay, that's fine. Come up to me and say thank you.
Yes.
But what hurts is when people walk away.
Oof.
I just gave you a half hour of my life. I gave you 45 minutes. And when I did my big finale, I just watched hundreds of people turn their back on me and walk away. And I was like, ooh, yeah, I can feel that hurting. Yeah. So next time y'all pass a busker on the street, stop. Oh, fun fact that I wanted to share with you.
Please do.
One of the things that the Fringe Festival is doing that I find super interesting, and I only found out because I was tipping a busker by going beep beep on a thing, and it said, would you like to participate in our study? And I said, what is this study we are doing? And from reading the 20 pages of fine print that I only read because my brother is an attorney on the show that makes sure I read stuff. It seems to me like what they're doing is matching up the credit cards that are tipping buskers with the credit cards that are spending money along the mile in the strip, in this touristy area. Because what they're trying to do is prove the economic impact that buskers have on tourism.
Oh.
And I was like, that's a good study. They did a couple of studies on like environmental benefits, as in people are more likely to hang out in a place. They feel safer in a place with live entertainers. They feel, they don't even notice they do, but they do. And it was
interesting.
I could go into that whole thing. But what they're doing at the Fringe this year, I was like, oh, that's an interesting one, because that's a fight that if they can prove it, is a fight to these places that go, well, they're allowed. Well, I don't like them outside my building. And you go, well, you know what? It brought you 20% more income. Hard to argue with at that point,
Yep.
So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, this is definitely a far cry from the sort of like early busking days that like Evan and I used to do outside the Barnes and Noble and Kendall before summarily getting kicked out.
I opened my guitar case and went, you know who I am.
Hey, throw a little something in the guitar case. And at the very least, like if a performer has any kind of like free business card or any kind of flyer, or maybe, nowadays I imagine that more and more performers are kind of availing themselves of sort of like QR code technology. Like if you can't throw cash, I have found myself in situations where I'm like, I wish I had cash, and if I did, I would be giving it to you. In those situations where you can't, like, at least show your appreciation somehow. And usually these folks will have music online that maybe you could pay digitally for, or other ways that you can keep in touch with them and keep tabs on them as musicians. And also just generally, and this goes across a busker, any musician, any creator, any artist, etc. Even if you can't contribute monetarily, and I know times are hard for everyone, giving a compliment is free.
Yep. Thank you goes a long way.
It goes a long way. And a lot of times the only validation that an artist sees is the dollar amount, but that's not necessarily reflective of the actual support that they have from people and the amount of people that actually support them. There are some folks that might love them, they just haven't been able to, pay for a track yet. So do your part and tell artists of all stripes when it is that you love what they do, even if, and especially if you cannot contribute monetarily. Sharing their stuff with a friend, etc., being in the chat on their streams, or just sort of being around whenever they do their thing regularly. Folks love regulars. Make yourself a regular. All of these different things you can do to support, even not monetarily necessarily. But I love that the Fringe is making it easier also for folks that maybe don't have this already set up for them, which I think is cool.
And they're going from place to place, and each place to place may have a different setup or a different mentality. And a festival that supports independent creators and supports artists that says, look, we saw this as a problem here. We can't solve the rest of the world, but we can give you a tool when you come to our festival. I think that helps bring people into your festival. You're trying to be inclusive, and you're spending your time and your energy trying to develop things to help the artists. And, we can all do as much as we can to help, but I like seeing organizations doing things that I think do benefit the performers. Best, worst, there's a lot of pros and cons we can say to everything, but that's a step towards helping artists make money. What?
Artists making money? That's weird.
What?
It's not like that's a thing that we aim for for folks to have happen to them on this very show. It's not an express goal of the show.
And speaking of comedians, since I know she's super caught up in Martha's Vineyard, I believe, like, all right, they call it's kind of hard to be like, I'm not good. But we have another comedian that's a Break the Business regular, a guest from a year ago, almost exactly now, is here at the Fringe with me.
Oh, yeah.
So I know people are watching this real time at 2:00 in the morning, but Chris Gethard, who is here with us, and you got to interview him back in the day. He is here, and he will be doing a comedy special. He's only here for a few nights, but I was super excited to see he was here. His show is at the same time as my show, so I can't get over to see him. But I did want to send a shout out to him and say we here at Break the Business are proud that he's over there doing stuff at the Fringe, and I hope we get him back to tell us how it went for him at the end of this.
Oh yeah, break a leg, Chris.
Yeah.
Friend of the show.
Oh my goodness.
Awesome. Unfortunately, it looks like our guest comedian Coco Brown will not be joining us, but that is because for very good reason, she's actually doing a set right now at literally a comedy festival. So I cannot think of any better reason to not talk to us than like literally doing your art.
Yeah. It's nice to talk about it. It's another thing to do it. Yeah.
Exactly. Coco Brown is currently walking the walk right now, and I imagine that the advice for indie creators that she would give would be to go do the thing.
Do your art, yeah, do it. Especially when someone's paying you to do it. Do it.
Do the thing, and do it well. So we hope that we can chat with Coco Brown at some point on the show in the near future and hear how that set went.
Yes.
But of course,
I think
if
she
you were
owes that to us, right? Like, so you have to at least tell us how it went over there.
Yeah, but at the very least, she had a new special released called "Famous Enough," available on various streaming services, and you can follow her at Coco Brown One Funny Mama on Instagram. So want to at least give the shout out to all of her socials and all the things, all the plugs and stuff. If even if we couldn't chat with her, but that's okay.
We still send her support and love, and we want you to support her too.
There you
Just
go.
like all of our guests. I think we're so lucky to work with so many artists, and when the people that we get to work with find success, like that's the ultimate goal. I mean, do it. Break this business and go make it a business for yourself,
I love this. And honestly, I think that is a great way to transition into a little bit of a commercial break. A word from our sponsors who may or may not sound familiar vis-a-vis the people that we have been chatting with already.
All right, we'll be right back.
Ryan Corella here. I hope you're enjoying the show, and I hope that you're getting a lot out of it. I do what I do because I care about creators like you. A lot. I've dedicated my career to helping creative professionals, entrepreneurs, and organizations move forward. I do it by hosting this program, and I'm also proud to do it in my legal practice. If you're a creative professional looking for solutions-oriented legal services to help you further your goals, I'd love to help. My firm RKPA does contracts, commercial law, copyright, trademark, and more. Visit rkpalaw.com to learn more. That's rkpalaw.com. Ryan A. Corella, PA, Miami, Florida.
Streaming services for Break the Business provided by LEK Entertainment. LEK Entertainment is a full-service entertainment company offering everything from consultations to full-scale events and productions, including audio and video productions, voiceovers, staged theatrical productions, script and music development, and streaming services. For more information, visit lekentertainment.com. LEK Entertainment wants to help you bring your story to life.
Thanks for supporting Break the Business. If you have a question or topic that you want us to discuss, email us at breakthebusiness@gmail.com. You can follow the host, that's me, on Twitter at RyanKAIR, and you can follow the show at the BTB Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and on all major podcast platforms. And now, let's get back to the show.
Hey, and we're back. Now, of course, Lauren, you are not the only one that has been out and about. Last week, we saw that I was live from my hotel room at Gen Con in Indianapolis, and I am back. I think I've gotten over all of my soreness, and I may be caught up on. No, I'm definitely not caught up on sleep. I'm super not caught up on sleep. But I was at Gen Con in Indianapolis since Tuesday. And my job at Gen Con, for those of you not familiar with Gen Con, it is a convention that is focused mainly on tabletop card, maybe analog games. So everything from Dungeons and Dragons, which would kind of be probably one of the more or maybe most popular things being showcased at Gen Con in all of its forms, but also things like Warhammer 40K or Magic the Gathering or like Pokemon cards. So like collectible card games like that, but all manner of board games, party games, more kind of serious board games that may or may not, take an hour and a half just to explain the rules. Everything in between. That is a convention absolutely dedicated to it. What I did not realize is, Lauren, the Fringe has been going on for 75 years. Gen Con has been going on for 55 years, which is like, I've been going to conventions for, boy, I just did the math, and I have been going to conventions for over a decade now. Over a decade, and these are things that have been relatively new because video games, but something devoted to things like tabletop games, big 55 years old, folks have been getting together to play tabletop, which is absolutely bananas. And I was tasked with doing a couple of live segments for them. One of them was basically, there was somebody walking behind me with a phone and a camera and a microphone, basically streaming me walking around the convention center live as part of Gen Con TV. And essentially, because it was my first time there, I was giving them essentially like a first-timer's view of the exhibit hall, walking around, and basically you just got to watch me get distracted by a lot of shiny things.
Shiny! And colorful.
A lot of shiny and colorful things. I know we have some pictures for those of you who are benefiting from watching us live on all of our various video streaming platforms, including Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Shouts to you. I'm showing one of the first like cool things that I saw. I took this picture right before the convention started. It is a collective art project, absolutely free. You basically walk up to this kind of wooden canvas throughout the convention, and you pick a spot and you paint it. It's kind of sketched out. It's paint by numbers. It's a carousel with all sorts of mystical, kind of fantastical creatures all around it. And you could pick a spot on the canvas and paint and make your own little contribution to this collective art project at Gen Con. Another awesome sort of community thing, there were lots of different things that folks were doing for charity. There were, in addition to sort of other kind of community togetherness things, like there was a blood drive being hosted at Gen Con to help people out. But what we are seeing right now, and apologies to the folks at home, but follow me on all the platforms so you can catch some of these pictures after the show. But this is a giant balloon sculpture. And when I say giant, I mean it goes from the first floor carpet all the way up to the sky bridge on the second floor. And it is a background of gray and neutral balloons offsetting this massive balloon sculpture of a red dragon. And this specifically is Genevieve, the Gen Con mascot.
Oh, okay. I was like, he has a name? Okay.
Yep. So that is Genevieve, the Gen Con dragon, made entirely out of a balloon sculpture. This is not your average thing that, you see table side being made for you at like an original pancake house on a Sunday morning. This thing is huge. And where does the community aspect come in? They do a lot of stuff for charity, and one of the things that they have auctioned off throughout the weekend, there's a whole auction house where you can get rare games and all sorts of things, but they auctioned off the chance to be the first person to slay the dragon.
Yes.
So they auctioned that off for charity. I don't know exactly how much money they raised, but I did see at the end of the convention someone posing with Genevieve's head, and there was nothing else left.
Oh no! It's like kids in a pinata, like blah, it like comes out of them.
Yeah, you want to talk about being scared of loud noises. I may not have wanted to be around for the slaying of Genevieve on this one.
Okay, you're afraid of the loud noises, and I'm allergic to latex. So like that thing is my fear. I'm like, man, they're popping a bunch of balloons. I'm like, get out of the room. There's gonna be powder everywhere.
It's a nightmare scenario all around there. Just a nightmare scenario all around.
But it's beautiful to look at. Beautiful.
No, gorgeous. And it was really cool seeing it sort of get built throughout the convention with the knowledge. You
watched it get built? Down. Like it wasn't already up at the beginning?
Nope. You kind of watch the progress as they added, on the first day they were doing the backdrop. And then on the second day they were doing kind of the main body of Genevieve. And then the next day they were doing like the legs and the wings. And then after that you saw the grass being made at the bottom. I was like, these are a lot of balloons.
Do you think they rehearsed that? Like,
I imagine... I mean, I think this is like a professional balloon sculpture company that was probably hired to do this sort of thing. I imagine that you do a test run because you got to know like how much you got to like map it out somehow. I imagine just at least get a gauge of like how many balloons you actually need for this.
That sounds like a raffle there. Like, the jelly bean containers. Like, I feel like they need to be like, how many balloons made up this sculpture?
You say that. I don't know if I actually sent you the picture of that, but let's see what other pictures we have.
Is that a thing? Okay, hold on. Let's see.
Yeah. Oh, another cute thing that they have, right? Like
top characters.
So there are these situations where whether you're playing Warhammer or you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, or any other manner of sort of tabletop game, at some point you might find yourself with a metal piece called a minifig. And these are things that are small and usually metal, sometimes plastic, but the one in my hand that you see there is metal. And as part of the hobby of tabletop games, there are some folks who find the process of painting these minis, very therapeutic and soothing. And at Gen Con, if this is a thing that you're into, they have a couple of things. One of them is called a paint and take, which is that's what I took part of, where you sign up throughout the con. There's when I signed up, there was like an hour wait to do it. And you pick a little metal figurine. It was all white when I first picked it. And they sit you down on a table. There's paints all over the place. And you see my little mat there with instructions on kind of how to paint. It suggests that you start with shading first, and then you add a contrast layer for, shadows. And then you add your highlights after that. You basically sit down at a table. They provide all the paint and the brushes and the water for you. You pick your mini. And you sit down for an hour and you paint.
It takes you an hour to do like a little guy?
Yeah.
Ooh.
You get about like 45 minutes to an hour, before you have to like get up and let somebody else have a turn. But yeah, you basically just sort of zone out and zen out for an hour just painting these minifigs. If you are not as sort of chill, and which I definitely am not this kind of chill, but I'm also not this kind of not chill. They had mini painting racing. They had speed painting where they would literally have people in a row. They would give them an hour, start a timer, and they're like, all right, go. And you just paint this little tiny mini figurine. And then I think a judge at the end sort of judges it and, picks a winner. And there's probably a prize at the end. But at the end of this, I could take it. I didn't have to pay anything, any kind of entrance fee. I imagine that there was probably a spot where I could maybe like, leave some tips or maybe like contribute to a paint fund or something. But I got to keep it. And here's my guy.
That's great.
Yeah.
But it kind of, look at it. There he is.
Yeah.
It kind of takes the therapeutic part out if it gets competitive, though, doesn't it?
Yeah. But, there are some folks who are really, really good at this and are able to do that kind of fine detail work. Like, my guy had like a whole like sort of set of beads and a staff and a bag and all sorts of little pieces to paint. And more power to those folks who do that on a regular basis. But this was really, really fun and totally free. I just walked up and you could just do it. And
remember, you didn't pay to get into the con because you were working.
That's true.
A lot of the people sitting there paid. So like it may be what they consider to be part of that entrance fee.
Absolutely.
In case you're thinking to yourself, why am I paying this much to go to a con or whatever? They do provide all kinds of stuff that are included in that cost for sure. Yeah.
It's fantastic. So like there are some separate ticketed events. So they're like some of the concerts. I sat in with Professor Shy Guy. Shouts to Professor Shy Guy. He actually made the shirt that I'm currently wearing right now. He makes his own merch with bleach and a heat press machine. And has all sorts of characters, does shirts, bags, etc. And it says Professor Shy Guy on the back. I sat in with Professor Shy Guy. Shy Guy makes really cool nerd originals and covers using like a hacked, all sorts of hacked like Game Boy, NES machine things. Very chiptune-y, very digital, very, very cool. But all sorts of musical acts are there. Everything from the ticketed events to there were buskers all around the con. There were sort of stock, kind of standard spaces where they had scheduled folks throughout the show. That some stuff that looked a little bit more staged and some stuff that was basically just like, I am going to take this spot in the hallway with my loot. Literal loots, bagpipes, auto harps, fiddles, saxophones. There was an entire there was a classical quartet doing video game and like fantasy music. Like it was like as a musician, I was definitely satisfied going to Gen Con. Let me see what other pictures we might have. I've already forgotten everything.
I've got
there
speaking
you go.
of musicians there.
Speaking of musicians, that is actually a shot from the side of the stage watching Shy Guy. And his partner Blythe doing their thing up on the stage. I'm waiting for my waiting for my chance to go up and sing Aaliyah. I was covering "Are You That Somebody" in chiptune style.
You got to go up and sing?
I did. I sat in for a tune, and it's really interesting because there is a difference in crowds between a convention crowd in literally a sort of hotel ballroom and your kind of typical stage. These folks are exhausted by the time that they have gone to you. This is probably the first time that they've sat down since this morning. But the energy of folks there, even when they're tired, they will still find it in them to get up, do a little bit of a boogie, do this with their hands at least in the chair, just hang out and vibe and jam out. It's a very, very good time. In addition to, let's see what else we got. There were musicians there. One of my favorite things, which is the weirdest thing that I did not expect to be there. They have like a solid puppetry segment.
Yeah.
That I was not expecting.
There's one here too. I was
Really?
like, what? There's like, I could go to a class on articulation over at Fringe Central one of these days. And I was like, what? Like puppetry's as hot right now.
Puppetry's hot right now. Like I was looking through the program, which is, like probably I imagine the Fringe program is like this too, like almost the size of a phone book. And it was everything from like live action role playing to the musician stuff happening to, and then there's a whole like puppetry thing. There were folks that have done puppetry for like the Dark Crystal and Fraggle Rock and Sesame Street coming over and giving like workshops on puppetry, and even set up an artist alley, and you can like, you know, meet them and get some puppetry supplies. And it was really interesting. I was like, how does puppetry kind of fit into everything? And I'm realizing that so much of the tabletop games that are featured at Gen Con involve role playing. It's like literally, you know, TTRPGs, tabletop role playing games.
Right.
And in addition to the games, Gen Con really does also focus on the role playing aspect of it, and really leans in. So I think there were even folks that were kind of giving workshops and panels on things like how to produce one thing that's becoming increasingly common, folks playing tabletop role-playing games online through things via Twitch and YouTube. And honestly, even if you are like a musician out there and you are like maybe like zoning out right now because like we're not talking about music, honestly though, anyone from musicians to wrestlers to, you know, actors from True Blood, like to like there is an actor, I'm gonna mangle his last name, like Joe Manganiello, I think originally from True Blood, who like literally runs a D&D campaign that I think at his table is like Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine. Like,
Hey, these are my buddies, you know, we play games.
yeah, but like literally sitting around a D&D table of like all of the nerdy awesome things in the world. So like let this be just like a, you know, another little bit of advice, like don't be scared to show your geekery as a musician, and like use that as an opportunity to make connections with your community across more than music. There are folks that are you know, voice actors, but also like sports entertainers, wrestlers, like all manner of folks are mad nerdy.
You can be a nerd about anything you want. Yep.
Oh gosh, and they're showing off their wares, and like it's so fun. I was really intimidated, honestly. I have frequented a lot of gaming spaces that have been less than welcoming to folks that look and sound like me. And tabletop role playing sometimes has been sort of marketed as one of those places where it's been like a little bit less friendly to women at the table. But Gen Con this year, I think especially, really stepped up. They had all manner of amazing like acts, tabletop shows that weren't just like Critical Role, which you might have heard of. It's not just Critical Role, but also like underrepresented communities that have really awesome tabletop podcasts and like actual play live shows. Folks like Nerdy, NUR-D or nerd or nerdy. Sick geek rapper that absolutely like held it down on the food truck stage. So like all manner of like geek rapping to tabletop RPGs. There was also the BIPOC lounge was beautiful. It was a lounge specifically for BIPOC folks, Black, Indigenous, people of color, to go in and have a safe, beautiful space. They had craft services in there. They had snacks. They had water for you. They had private meeting spaces. If you would like to meet with a game company, potentially, if you are a creator and you wanted to meet with a game company and potentially be like, hey, I want to show off your game on stream. Or if you are a tabletop developer and you wanted to maybe meet with a publisher to get your game out there and distributed, they had special meeting booths in the BIPOC lounge for you to be able to book and hold business meetings in. They had games for you to check out. There was Beyonce playing. It was like one of the most like beautiful spots. And like as a Puerto Rican woman who oftentimes navigates a lot of spaces that are predominantly, housing folks that don't necessarily look like me, I was like, this is the most welcome that I felt at a convention. And this was not a place that I expected to, I was like, I didn't feel tabletop enough. You know what I mean? Like,
I could see that. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm like hardcore enough, to hang with everyone. But there were all sorts of games being shown. Is that all the pictures that I had for you?
That you sent me. You only sent me the 4.
Oh, I only sent you the 4. All right, cool. I have all manner of video and stuff. There was this one last thing for charity that I did want to mention was a thing called Card Holla.
Okay.
Right. So now picture like Magic the Gathering cards, Pokemon cards, WWE trading cards from like the 80s or 90s. I don't even know. Just like any kind of like baseball cards. So just cards.
Cards.
Right. Uno cards, whatever cards.
Tangible cards.
Tangible physical cards. Right.
Okay.
Now picture building a house of cards. Right.
Okay.
Okay. Now picture a large mass of the Gen Con community building not only houses of cards, but all sorts of towers of cards.
Castles of cards?
Castles of cards on the floor. There was actually a really cute, someone had built a scene on top of a table that you could only see if you like looked down from the second floor. A Pac-Man chasing a ghost in like 3 dimensions. Someone built an entire robot out of cards. All of these things
at the event, or did they prep them beforehand?
It was at the event. You start with a blank. It's at the lobby of the convention center, and you started off blank with just a bunch of tables and some cards. And throughout the convention, all of these houses and sculptures and robots and things and giant towers get built. And then on Saturday night, they auction off the chance for you to be the first throw of a coin to start tearing down Card Holla, right? Valhalla, which is this heaven, if you will, of cards. And then what happens is they auction off the first throw, which I think for the first throw, I think they ended up making like $3,000 just from people bidding on the chance to be able to be the first one to throw it.
Wow.
The first person throws, and then the countdown begins. And once they count down, everyone surrounding Card Holla takes every bit of change in their pocket, and one by one, everyone just starts pelting all of Card Holla with coins and tightly wadded up dollar bills and just lets loose until Card Holla is destroyed.
And then collected all of the money from your pocket.
Yep. And then some souls who I hope enjoy this work have to then gather up all of the cards and all of the money and then eventually count it. And all of that goes to support a local charity. And it's the coolest thing in the world seeing all of these people that are willing to like compete with each other and keep running it up. I think they raised upwards of like $4,000 just on this endeavor between the auction and the money that people threw. But the idea of like gamers coming together.
Yeah. How badly would you feel if you knocked it over like mid-building? I wouldn't be able to add to the like project. It's like we keep adding to it. I'd be like, I can't do it. It's not going to be my fault. I can't.
I was kind of concerned because it was in the lobby of the convention center, and I was like, I feel like people like opening the doors. Like I'd be worried like a stiff breeze would like ruin stuff.
Crazy.
But I think people just sort of like they started in the center and they kind of worked their way out so that they wouldn't necessarily have to like trample on too much stuff. People were very careful, but I think also people were kind of like cool with the idea that like, hey, accidents happen, see if you can like rebuild a thing. But otherwise, there were some folks that were very much walking around like a serious tightrope situation walking around. But the Gen Con situation in terms of like the amount of stuff to do there, I was very surprised. And even some of the games that I showed off, games, and you can, catch some of the demos that I did on twitch.tv/GenCon main stage, as well as twitch.tv/GenCon TV. Kind of like scrub through some of those videos, and you might check out not just me, but a whole crew of folks walking around the convention and showing off stuff, up to and including on Sunday. Do you know who I got to meet on Sunday?
Do tell who.
Sorry, what?
Or don't tell, fine.
Sunday. I met Bigfoot 1, who is the original monster truck.
Oh.
You want to talk about celebrity appearances at Gen Con? I met Bigfoot and I met Bigfoot parents. Bigfoot's parents are great. They're very sweet. Bigfoot is a huge monster truck that is 11,000 pounds, and the tires are 1,000 pounds each, and they're almost as tall as I am. They're huge.
Holy Jesus.
And they were promoting a Bigfoot game. That's like a game where you get to like build your monster truck kind of track against, other monster truck folks. There is all manner of game made out of all manner of stuff. So I talked about Bigfoot, and I met Bigfoot's parents. Just a monster truck was just there. I showed off board games that are based on like Netflix shows, which was really, really interesting, talking to the developers about the process of like, how do you make Ozark into a board game?
Is it a board game now?
Yeah, it is a board game now. Ozark is a board game now, and you get to launder money as one of many different factions in the city. That's the whole point of the game. They made a game about Squid Game. So it's
they make Stranger Things game where it's like we played D&D to make a show about playing D&D, so we could make a game about a show that plays D&D.
There is the third game in that Netflix block literally was a Stranger Things game, but it was kind of cool because it was almost like a werewolf game in a way, where it's sort of like one of you is the mind flayer and the other of you are the humans, and you're kind of passing cards back and forth to see if you as the mind flayer can like turn the other kids, or if you as the kids can like survive being turned by the mind flayer. It was really interesting. But I also showed off like lots of like cute little party games. There's this really this cute game. It's like this big. It's like literally the size of an avocado, and it's called Ole Guacamole. And it's like a cute little party word game. So it's like anything from like all of those things that might take like hours and hours to explain, but also like if you are a person that has like a Friday night game night or likes to play board games with your family, all of those were represented there too. I really had a super great time there. I'm kind of obsessed, and I'm like definitely going to drag Evan there next year.
Did you bring home any board games?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I did. There was one game that actually I showed off called "Oh Really?" I thought I knew you better than that. That's the tagline.
Really? Yeah.
And it's a cute sort of like getting to know you party game with really gorgeous art on it that I was like, I want wallpaper of all of these things. And they give you it's like you get 5 cards, it's like 5 different topics, anything from like soy milk, eating cereal at night, taking naps in a hammock, reality TV, right? So you have all these things, and then you have to rank, and the person and the people across you have to rank how you feel about these things. So like out of these 5 things, what is your favorite thing and what's your least favorite thing? Okay. And the whole point is for folks to kind of guess what is your particular ranking of whether you prefer soy milk over taking a nap in a hammock.
It's one of those how well do you know the other players games.
Definitely. Yeah. But it's not, but it's definitely interesting because you have to sort of rank things from 1 through 5. So in that sort of like, what are you like ambivalent on? Like, what are you indifferent on? That's the kind of stuff that ends up
The far ends are the easy ones. It's where do
Yeah.
you put 2, 3, and 4? I don't know.
Yeah, which then sort of leads to the title of the game, like, oh really? Oh, I didn't know that you didn't have or did have a strong opinion about XYZ. So yeah, I ended up bringing that board game home. I did so much shopping in my head. and thankfully I only had
Self-control.
a really small I had a small suitcase, and I was not trying to pay money to check this thing. I didn't pay a check bag fee on the way there. I was not paying one on the way back. Oh no. No. So I made it work. There was some Tetris involved so that all of the different things, the t-shirts, the art,
Just
walking
wore
through
like 10 outfits on the airplane.
yeah, just like I'm wearing more clothes on the plane, so I have room in the suitcase for just board games and dice. Oh my gosh.
Did you buy a bunch of dice?
I wanted to buy dice so bad. There is a whole thing in like the board game community about these beautiful math rocks being like forbidden candy, forbidden gushers.
Really?
Like they look the dice technology and the dice art
There's
on display.
technology in that feels like it's unfair if there's technology in a dice.
There are dice made out of like prismatic laser glass that is often used in the creation of smartphones and redirecting lasers. There are big hollow dice made out of metal, intricately carved with filigree. There are dice that are resin poured with liquid cores on the inside that as you shake them you can see the swirls in your hands. And
That's fun.
I need money and space and games.
I got my nephew 100-sided dice, and I had to sit there with the guy and go, all right, how do you know which number you landed on? And every time we rolled it, we both came up with the same number, even though there's like a gazillion sides that are up at that time. I was impressed by the fact that you could tell the numbers on 100-sided dice. I also got him for this birthday this year. I got him a timeout chair for his dice. It has like a little cap and like a little, yeah, because sometimes that dice it needs to go to timeout.
It's got to go to timeout. It's got to go directly to jail. Do not pass go. Because I did not collect $200, you do go directly to jail. Go directly to dice jail. Any gaming tables? Just all manner of geekery, fashion, art, like whatever you can think of that is based on your love of play, the things that you play in and of themselves, and just all manner of geekery is all on display at Gen Con. And
what I'm hearing for our valued listeners and viewers is that cons and festivals are very valid options for independent creators. These are opportunities to meet people on geek avenues of all kinds. If you're into live performance, there are festivals. If you're into we had, why can't I remember her name now? But we had somebody on the show who did an entire album on Doctor Who. And we did like, if you can find your niche people and then take your art to them, be the busker outside NAMM. If you're into music geekery, if you're into board games and you're coming up with albums based on Dungeons and Dragons, like get to those cons, get to where you can build an audience, because you're not trying to hit everybody at once on a mass media scale, but rather your people. We can do that again. What? Crazy.
Yeah. And even for folks that that may be immunocompromised and may not be able to get themselves out there, a lot of these conventions, thankfully, and I hope it stays, are having more
Online
sort of
components.
online components, right?
Yeah.
So Gen Con for some of these game demos and some of these games, they actually had folks remoting in. I think they had somebody remoting in from Australia to run a game on television. I would highly suggest that folks that want that as an option going forward, especially so that our immunocompromised folks and folks who otherwise can't go out do not get left behind, definitely demand that this sort of content stays. Apply for this sort of thing, demand that it stays, support this content where you
Support
can.
it. Because if you don't support it, it doesn't stay around. Yeah.
Support it and share it however you can, so that folks, we have come so far lately, and it's really great that I got a chance to be able to do this in person for so many people. But my favorite part was being able to bring the experience of Gen Con to those folks at home who otherwise couldn't roam the halls with me.
Right.
So it's important for me that we keep those possibilities and opportunities alive for folks, for the fans, but also for the performers that are still like, I want to get out there, but all of that stuff.
Well, and it's both sides too. It's being able to get out and in person is just as important as having the option online. And I think that I'm glad both worlds are trying to learn to work nicely together.
Yes.
To get everyone a little excited, hopefully you were discussing earlier bagpipes, and I wanted to let you guys know that next week I may have a local Edinburgh indie band that creates their own music in both a modern rock style with some live bagpipes, which just made me feel very indie creators in Edinburgh. So hopefully I'll be bringing that to y'all next week. Shout outs to all of them. And since you're talking board games, I have to plug a friend of mine, Ken Davenport. So if you want a mixed theater world with gaming world, How to Be a Broadway Star is a fun board game for those of you who've ever wanted to go on a journey for a Tony.
There you go. Awesome, Lauren. That's stay tuned for that next week. For you folks out there, I don't know if I'm coming back next week or not.
What?
It's possible that I am. It is possible that I am. If I am, I would love to see you next week for another rousing rendition of the Break the Business podcast. But in case I don't see you next week, I just wanted to let you know that I wanted to thank you all so much for embracing me these last few weeks. Honestly, I could not have done the job that I did at Gen Con if I had not had all of these weeks of training on the front end beforehand. So shouts to Ryan for giving me that practice before literally doing it live at a convention that I've never been to before. Thank you so much for joining me for all of my rambling. Hopefully there will be more of it next week and beyond. But until then, thank you all so much for listening to Break the Business. Please be sure to keep working on your art. And hey, by the way, by listening to this podcast, you have officially worked on your art. It totally counts, folks. It totally counts. All right. Stay safe out there. Keep creating.
And keep hydrated.
Rest. Stay hydrated. Give yourself some credit. And no matter what you do, always be sure to rock on. We'll see you later, folks.